Yes, a very good evening. Welcome to this week's edition One-on-One with Michael Jordan Lukomwa. We choose topics that concern us in general, our families, communities, our beautiful country, Uganda, and the world at large. Now, we have all heard about human trafficking of persons, and things like that. Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate the 30th of July, which is the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. But besides, what exactly is trafficking of persons? What does it pertain? How is it a problem? How big is it as a problem? How can it be handled? And what is being done here and far to see that we get it solved totally? To make the matters worse, it is even among children. So, how can it be stopped? How big is it as a problem? That is what we're going to look at this evening. I have a guest. He's a World Executive Director of the Uganda Children's NGO Network. His name is Mr. Damon Wamara, and we are here to talk to him about these issues because he's among those people that really have the information that we need, particularly on this. Sir, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show.
How are you doing and how is everything?
I'm doing well and hoping to continue to fight for the rights of the children.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would you define trafficking of persons to somebody watching us?
When we talk about trafficking of persons, we develop, we get our definition from the Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act of Uganda. And the Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act defines trafficking as, as three things. One, there is the act. The act is that there is a transportation, there is harboring, there's recruitment of persons, and then there is the means, which is how was it done? Was it done by coercion? Was it done by consensus? Was it done by abuse of power? Was it done by abuse of position? And then you have for the purpose. Why was it done? And that is for one purpose, for the purpose of exploitation. So trafficking in persons is the transportation, the recruitment, the harboring of persons through coercion, abuse of power, exchange of money, for the reason or for the purpose of exploitation.
Okay. Give us a picture of the vice in as far as Uganda is concerned.
The vice of trafficking in persons exists in various ways and in various forms. Many of us have seen the whole idea of trafficking in persons with the idea of the people are kept, remember the exploitation, the reason is for servitude, whether it is domestic servitude or it is farm servitude, servants on the farm who are kept, trafficked and used on the farms. We have it manifest itself through commercial sexual exploitation of whether it is adults or victims or children. We have it manifest itself through forced labor. And here we have the street begging, which we have seen, and a good example are the Karamajong children who are forced to beg for the purpose of one person benefiting. We have it manifest through...
Is that the fact?
Yes, there are people who are
know.
benefiting from that. We have also those who are recruited into armed conflict. They're not wanting. A good example are those children and adults who were recruited by Kony. During that time, he was trafficking persons. He was forcing them into armed conflict, into fighting and all that. Then we have also, for the purpose, the forced labor, you also have the sugarcane plantations, the tea plantations, making people work in there when they're being exploited.
What do you think are the causes, the main factors that we look at in as far as upholding this vice in Uganda? We'll first look at Uganda because the proximity and how we are touched as people in a country. What are those factors that have kept this thing standing?
Yeah. Let me first start by saying that this vice does not discriminate. This crime does not discriminate. It's not only for the poor. It's a vice or it's a crime that can happen to anyone. Even you can be trafficked. Yes, anyone, even a person with a good job can be easily trafficked, because you see, the way the recruitment, the grooming, and the preparation of a person, it doesn't come directly and say, look, I'm trafficking you, come and we go. It is an enticement. It's an encouraging situation. They're taking advantage of the fact that you are in desperate need of something. So the reason why I started by that is because I'm going to tell you that people in a poverty situation are affected, and it is a pull factor. But even the rich, who are trying to look for a better life out of the country, can easily be trafficked for other jobs, for odd jobs. And when they go through that odd job, they end up finding that the job they applied for is not the one that they're actually going into doing.
That also is trafficking.
Yes, that also is trafficking. We have had people who have been recruited to go as teachers, but when they reach there, they are instead used as prostitutes. That is trafficking. We have people who have gone out for jobs, but when they reach there, their kidneys, their lungs, their body parts are actually taken out. That is trafficking for organ harvesting, and there are quite a number of other reasons. So you have also the reason is the lack of knowledge, the lack of understanding of how this crime manifests itself. How is it manifesting? What are the trends? The trends keep on changing. Today they're going to use this, tomorrow they're going to use the other. And that's why you see, even during this COVID period, we had a lot of exposure to phones, we had a lot of engagement with media. And this year's theme of World Trafficking Against Persons is about the use of technology. Is it a pro or is it a con? And we, from the COVID situation, we have seen that grooming, recruitment of victims has been done online. So you also have the exposure to online. And now you see, when I talk about that, does a person in poverty have the internet access and the smartphones or anything? You'll find those are mainly the rich people, the well-to-do people in the urban areas. And so that's why I'm saying that the reasons are vary, and it depends on what advantage point the traffickers, the perpetrators, are going to take over an individual.
Let's talk about child trafficking itself.
Yes.
What is it like? You see, we had looked at the picture in general of trafficking in persons. How big is it a problem in as far as children are concerned? Still, domestically. Yes.
The situation that we are seeing right now is that of the total arrests and engagement internally, because we have what we call internal child trafficking, and then we have cross-border, transnational cross-border trafficking. And internal trafficking, we find that 85% of the cases reported or investigated and prosecuted by the police and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution are showing us that over 80% of those cases are child-related.
How are they trafficked? Like, what happens? You said there are a number of things that we didn't know was trafficking, and it is actually trafficking. So what are those things that happen to children that are looked at as
a trafficking case?
They are being trafficked.
Yeah. So we have, and I'll not start in any order, but we have what we call the child marriage. Child marriage is also a part of trafficking in persons.
How?
Because you see, at the point there is recruitment, where a girl is recruited and being told that you're going to get married to somebody who is above, who is way older than the person. And then they organize a thing. There is exchange of money, because there's bride prices, everything. There's exchange of money or gifts or anything. And then at the end, the reason is that the person is going to sexually exploit the girl. The girl doesn't have a say over that whole thing. And let me just point out that when you talk about child trafficking, consent of the victim does not matter.
Why does consent not matter?
Because a child is a child. They don't give consent to anything. They're supposed to be protected. Consent doesn't matter. Even if a child says yes, it doesn't matter. A child is a child. And a child, by the law of Uganda, is protected to being a child. And also remember that according to our constitution, marriage is already defined as persons who are above 18 that consent to get married, not below 18. And our definition of a child is 17 and below is a child. Then you have FGM, female genital mutilation. That is also a form of trafficking. A girl is trafficked into another area and they're cut and they're exploiting them by cutting them for their purpose, their own pleasure, and then they bring the child back. That is also part of exploitation, trafficking. Then you have forced labor. And I've given you already example of forced begging that manifests in now many of our cities. And then you also have the labor, the child labor, in terms of working in the sugarcane plantations, in the tea plantations, in the rice plantations, coffee, cotton, and in the mining sector, where the children are taken advantage of. The trafficking also manifests itself there. The other last form of trafficking that comes in very prominent is domestic servitude, where we are seeing very many people, including the high-end areas. Even yourself, you might be a victim of it, or you have seen your neighbors.
What is that?
Which is domestic servitude, where young girls are brought from the villages on the basis of they are going to give them education in the city, or they are going to give them good employment, and they are brought for the purpose of making them housemaids, house girls, and the other forms of exploitation. And when they're in there, they're then also sexually further abused. And then we also have the last I can also throw out there is commercial sexual exploitation in the bars, in the brothels, and in the disco, in the nightclubs, the Chimasulo clubs, where young girls are recruited, are paid, and are exposed sexually to victims, to perpetrators.
In that case, what do you think are the factors that facilitate trafficking among children in our Ugandan community?
The first factor is the degradation of our parenting systems as a country. We are seeing more and more that as parents, we are letting go of our duty. We are handing over the duty to the housemates, to the different other persons, and are not keeping our role as parents and playing the key role. The second is, in Africa, in Uganda, children are seen as a source of income. That mentality of saying that leave me, let me produce my children, they are supposed to help me and keep me going. You find that they will quickly let the child not be in school and let the child go and look for employment so that their family can benefit from it. That is not how it should be. The child should be in school and the parents should be the ones fending and looking for their livelihood. But we have turned it the other way around. 3, the poverty levels, the situation of poverty. It cannot go without saying that the higher the level of poverty we have in the country, the more vulnerable people are to being exposed, to being trafficked out of the country, and even internally, because people prey on the vulnerability of a person.
You talked about poverty.
Yes.
So, do we have hope of ending trafficking in countries like Uganda and other African countries and other areas of the world, parts of the world where poverty is still that biting? Where poverty is still biting, is there a dream of seeing an end to this problem? Because actually, when you talk of early marriages, you will see that it's poverty that connects to
Poverty
such a mindset.
culture. Yes.
When you talk of looking for what to do at an early age, still poverty comes in, and mindset, and parents looking at children as
A source of
investments.
Yeah.
Still, it is poverty that connects with mindset to bring that. So, do you see it coming to an end in parts of the world where poverty is still standing strong?
If poverty continues to persist, we see people still being vulnerable. And the more people are vulnerable and exposed, it becomes easy for the perpetrators to take advantage of them. So, is it possible? Yes, it is very possible. One, I see government has made its attempts to see how to dwell and arrest the issue. I mean, they will tell you they have the parish development model where the most vulnerable in the community are empowered financially to grow. That is one of their efforts. They will tell you about the livelihood support they've given, the youth livelihood, and all these other angles that are supposed to be given. It is very possible if we are able to address the key push factors. The key push factors. One, do children have where to go to school? We're talking about child trafficking. The places which we see are predominantly having many children being exploited are places where the service of education is very low. Can we have enough schools to ensure that all children are moving into the schools and are part of the schools? Can we ensure that, two, the services are readily available for the persons in the area? Some of the reasons why they move is because they're trying to look for better care,
yes,
and attention. Then when they go to the different countries for the surgery, they come back with one one organ less, because somebody has taken advantage of that. So we need the services nearer. Three, the other push factor is the peace and stability. And I think therefore Uganda, we enjoy at least a good amount of peace and stability. Because remember that when children, even there are victims who are refugees, those who are trafficked, as a result, they come as unaccompanied children from the war-torn areas, and then perpetrators take advantage and take these children and then traffic them out of the country or in country and use them or exploit them for their own selfish purposes. It is possible also if the last one, if we all work together. This is a crime that cannot be dealt with only by government. This is a crime that needs all of us to join our hands and engage. One, as community members, because we are each other's watchdogs. We know what is happening in the community. Two, because this crime affects anyone and everyone is one way affected, because we have relatives, we have persons who are being taken advantage of, and we are the watchdogs.
What do you think has delayed that, if it's really possible? What do you think are those kind of situations or factors that are holding us back to see that? Because the schools are here. Every community at least has a school, no matter the distance. Why do you think parents still giving their daughters to be housemaids?
Well,
as early as 12 years. Why do you think parents still yearn to have their children go to countries where they get problems you have mentioned? Why would we still see children born by people standing on the streets to beg for a coin?
Again, one of the key things that we need to remember is that some people are trying to take advantage and make it a commercial purpose. If our parenting skills are strong, if we get back to the right parenting, and when you asked and said, why isn't it happening? It's because, again, it will go back to the fact that parenting has degraded. The role of parenting has been handed over to the housemaids. It has been handed over to the government. It has been, it is not my responsibility. The second one is the fact that the children themselves are not finding protection. They're not finding a heaven. They're not finding a place of safety for them to grow and also mature. But in terms of ensuring that we have behavior change, that will deal with the part on the parents quickly handing over their children, behavior change. Two, follow up and full implementation of the laws. We do know that we have good laws and we have good policies, because when you talk about trafficking in persons, we have the National Action Plan on how we intend to implement the law. But we also have a challenge of how do we finance this and make it perfect. The implementation, the financing and implementation is one of the biggest gaps that we have. And we need to invest more to be able to protect, have good systems in place that can be able to detect, follow up, and continue to investigate and bring to justice the perpetrators.
Mindset has always been part of our problems.
Yes.
In this area of trafficking of persons, especially children, how can mindset be handled?
You see, when you're dealing with communities...
Because it is a gap itself.
Yeah. When you're dealing with communities and societies, and different societies, when you're going in to engage them, the first thing you should know is that what will work for Buganda may not work for Busoga. What will work for Busoga may not work for Lira, Gulu, Arua. The situations are different, the societies are different, the cultures are different.
And they perceive information differently.
Yes. And you will end up finding that the Basoga will quickly grab on because probably they have some traits that are very strong in that area. You'll find others are saying, why are you telling us to change our culture completely? Are you trying to tell me I should stop cutting, doing FGM? Who told you? This is my culture. We have been doing it for forever. It is harder for them to embrace that change. So it needs to be tailor-made, and this is what makes it expensive. It needs to be tailor-made for the community and the society where you're going to engage. That is the best way for us to engage on the matter and for us to ensure that there is good behavior change. So it's not a one cut across behavior change program that will come in. It has to be one that is tailor-made for the different rich cultures that Uganda.
Can you just give an example?
I'll give you an example of, I know one of our member organizations that is implementing programs, 1, 2, 3 organizations that are implementing programs in Karamoja to end trafficking in Karamoja. And I do know that the first key issue was to get the cultural leaders to accept that this crime is wrong. And the cultural leaders had the perception that the LC5 chairperson then, who was the champion in the district to end child trafficking, was just trying to refuse their children to go and enjoy life in Kampala. He actually had to get those leaders, bring them to Kampala, show them where the children are, show them what the children are doing, and then the leader said, no, that is a shame to us. That is not how we should be. And then the cultural leaders turned themselves, and they're the ones now who started campaigning. By the time, as we talk right now, it is a process that every village has to account for the children who have disappeared. You see, the first mindset was, why are you stopping our people from migrating?
It is also our city.
It's also our city. We're also citizens. According to the migration law, we can migrate and settle anywhere.
Be anywhere.
But them understanding that the purpose was that these children are exposed, they're not protected, and are being used and taken advantage of, helped them change their mindset. And they have now become the persons who are promoting that children should stay and instead be taken to schools. So they end up changing that mindset. So that worked there. You will not find that it will not work in an area where they do not have cultural institutions.
Because even the factors that end up bringing children wherever are different.
Or you'll find that in that area where you're going to do your operation, the trafficking is not, because some people think that for trafficking you have to move from here to Dubai and you're trafficked, or from Kampala to Mukono and then you're trafficked. Sometimes trafficking happens within, and you'll find, like I've said, child labor. The children who are pushed into labor. You'll find that the area where you're going, what you're dealing with is not a cross-regional trafficking. It's an internal in the internal. It's happening in that district. It's happening in that area. So you need to devise a behavior change for that area.
What do the laws in Uganda say about trafficking? And actually, let me put these two together. And how much success have we registered in terms of legally stopping this vice?
If you don't mind, I'll bring right from the international spectrum and then bring it to the Uganda. First of all, at international level, the laws under the Human Rights Council, we have what we call the Palermo Protocol. The Palermo Protocol is a protocol that was done in Palermo, where the member states of the United Nations agreed that they will do everything possible to ensure that their citizens are protected from trafficking in persons. It's actually from that Palermo Protocol that Uganda then comes up with the prevention the prohibition and the prevention of the human trafficking and the Human Trafficking Act, Trafficking in Persons Act 2009. And also from the Palermo Protocol, we have for the children's area, we have what we call the United Nations Charter on the Rights of the Child, and then we have the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Child. And in both these conventions, these charters, the convention and charter, it's clearly stated that the member states are supposed to ensure that, one, they protect the victims. They also ensure that, two, that the perpetrators are brought to justice. And they have articles embedded in there that are around combating trafficking in persons, especially for the children, for the two conventions. Now, in Uganda, like I've said, there's the Prevention of the Trafficking in Persons Act, that was enacted in 2009, and that is the main act on this issue of trafficking in persons. But when it comes to concerning issues of children, we have also the Children's Act as amended 2016, which also clearly states its position on trafficking in persons, specifically for children, and calls for the life sentence of children for those perpetrators who traffic children. As it's regarded as aggravated trafficking in persons. We have also the most recent law, which is the prohibition and prevention of the Human Sacrifice Act 2021, which was just passed with the last parliament, the 10th parliament, in the last 10th parliament. And this protects those who are those children who are end up being victims of human sacrifice. It protects them, and it also creates a crime that is a penalty that is separate for such persons. We have, of course, all of these then come with their regulations, which also give guidance on that. We have policies. We have an action plan on combating trafficking in persons, which is already effective and was launched in 2020 on World Day Against Trafficking in Persons 2020. These are some of the laws that we have. And then we have districts that have then bylaws that are also in the area of protecting. We have the Kampala City Council Child Protection Ordinance that we all know was saying if you're giving money to children on the streets, you are facilitating trafficking in persons.
At that very point, Mr. Omar, that very ordinance.
Yes.
We still see people giving money to these children because out of compassion, somebody sees a starving child, he or she is asking for just a coin and he has it, they give. So, can these laws really help to stop the problem? Why have they not?
The laws are there to create the environment. The laws are there to create the penalties. Yes? The laws alone, without the implementation of the laws, without the practicability of the laws, becomes a good law on the shelf. Hence why I had said earlier on that we have good laws, we have good policies, we only lack the implementation.
Now, that's now another problem.
That is the bigger problem. And for me, the bigger problem is the financing of these laws and the financing of the implementation of the laws. So we have gone through the formation of the law. It is there. But for it to be actualized, one, even as citizens are supposed to implement the law, and we're not implementing it. The mere fact that you're seeing that people are still giving, even us are not implementing the law. Leave those who are policing the law. Because what you're now talking about is why aren't they arresting those people? Those are policing the law. But us as citizens, how are we taking the law and implementing it and realizing that, oh, there's a reason they are refusing us to give money. Find out why. If you actually want to give money, we don't want to kill that good burden. We don't think that it is bad
so
to be a
between the side that has to implement
and
those that have to police,
yes,
who do you think is not playing their role right?
Both of us are not playing our roles right. The ones who are implementing and the ones who are policing. One, the policing needs the financing. And they need to also move from giving us the excuse of financing. And with the little they have, what can they do? Can we have some good cases where they have seen? I know Kampala City Council will tell us and inform us that they're using the law, that ordinance, to go and rescue children and to bring to court the perpetrators. I know they would give us that as one of the reasons, one of the ways they're implementing it. But also us. How are we creating, how are we letting people know that, look, let's stop giving money? Because that same ordinance says that if persons want to contribute to the well-being of these children, They request that they go to the city council. City council will share with them who partners with them in organ NGOs, and they can go to those NGOs that are accredited by the NGO board and the city council, and they can give their support through there and hold those people accountable. Because when you give the child the money, the child gives it to somebody else. The child is not benefiting.
Okay.
And another person will tell you the current situation in Karamoja is also not desirable for the child. And so you'll find that some of our stories that UBC and all the other news channels portray of Karamoja gives people that comfort. It gives people that, heart of, let us give. They're here because where they are coming from is bad. So we need to ensure that we help people understand that you can support them in a better way. What you're doing now is you're facilitating a crime. You're not supporting them. You're facilitating a crime.
You looked at the children on the streets, but you talked about other forms of trafficking.
The children,
the house help in people's houses, the young girls in such.
And the police cannot go to the houses or the homes.
Exactly. So
the neighbor. That's why I'm saying that it's a collective. This crime here cannot be handled by one. So when you're talking about trafficking persons, what we start with, I should have actually started with this. We have a 4P. The 4 Ps. The first P is protection.
Okay.
And protection is, this is where we said the first one is protection because the first thing is prevention is better than cure. So prevention is created sensitization. It is about putting laws in place so that the laws can protect persons before they're exploited. All those are the prevention, sensitization and all that. What we're doing today, we're trying to create prevention. We're preventing. So we fall under the P of prevention, what we're doing right now. Then we have the P of prosecution. Protection comes into play that once a person has already been exposed and is already being trafficked and is already in exploitation position, they are withdrawn and they are protected. And protection includes rehabilitation, it includes psychosocial support, it includes reintegration back into the community. The third P is prosecution. Even though we are protecting, even if we're prevented, we are protecting, the perpetrators still need to be brought to book. And this is where prosecution happens. And the prosecution is mainly done by police and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, where they do joint investigations so that they can have successful cases. And we're very proud of our police and public Director of Public Prosecutions because we have seen an increase. Over 1,000 cases from 2020 have been filed.
In fact, I wanted to ask you, where do we report such cases?
There are various places we can report these cases. The first one that I would stand out for as a child rights organization is Sauti 116. Sauti 116 is a free toll call line where you can call and report any case of violation or any case of exploitation of a child. Sauti has police there. They will push it to the different action centers that will investigate and bring it to check. 2, we have the 911, 999, 999. Calling police. Police will immediately direct that case to there's a whole department on trafficking in persons. There's a whole department on trafficking in persons, which would still support the investigations and follow-up of such cases. So those are the 2 quick ones that I'll tell you you can call. If you are exposed and you're out of the country, the first place you would call is our embassy or our High Commission, because they have people who would be able to respond to issues around trafficking in persons.
What would be the best way to touch mindset as a challenge? Because it is at the center of mixing all the factors that facilitate the problem to persist.
First of all, I think one of the key things that we are seeing between you and I is that the conversation we are having continuous. The partnership, you can't be sure the last P of the 4 is partnership. The partnership we are having now with you, the media. The partnership we have with the district people, the CDOs, the community development officers, and all those other people. The partnership we have is creating awareness. It is also creating change of mindset. So we need to continue doing what we are doing. Let's continue to talk. Let's continue to partner. Let's continue to look for the spaces where we can create more awareness about this crime, how it manifests, and because the trends change, we also need to keep updating people on what are the new trends. How is it manifesting today? Like the last time, like we're saying now, before COVID, the recruitment was not online. Now COVID has happened. People have been exposed to phones, Zoom calls, different things, looking for scholarships. People have been out of school. People lost their jobs. And the jobs now come up and people are running to be teachers, and through the non-formal ways. And they end up becoming victims.
In a situation where we have a lot of poverty. You see, this end part, I want us to look at solutions. What would be your message to parents and the young people in our country? Because you said, in your definition, you said even if you consent, sometimes it doesn't matter. You're being trafficked.
Yeah.
So what message would you have to the young people and the parents out there?
I'll start with the parents and tell the parents that, one, it is not the child's duty to take care of you. It is your duty as a parent to take care of the child. That is the first thing. Second, it is not the child's duty to ensure that, your investment in the child today, when they are a child, is the actual investment you will have in the future, because the child will be able to then take care of you in the near future. To the youth or to the young people, one, you can report. You have a right to life. If you're a child, you have a right to education. You're supposed to be in school. Go and report to your teachers. You don't even need, you see, for the children, you don't even need to go to police all the time. Police is one of the areas. But you have your teachers at school. You have your different persons nearest to you. The LC2 chairperson, remember the vice chairperson of all local councils is the chairperson for the children's committee. And the child protection systems that are in the community, report to those child protection systems. They can be able to offer you protection. When it comes to the government, we need skills empowerment. We need to empower our children, our youth. We need to empower the key people in our community. We need more technical schools, skilling centers. The education system should be one that empowers people to be self-reliant and be patient. Don't want a lot of money so quickly. Because, the thing is, people have even a job. This crime is funny. People have even a job. But because they've been told dollars, that is enough. Somewhere. They have told them dollars, they have told them aeroplane. Those are two words that are enough that will convince them that life is better the other side.
Three words actually: airport, aeroplane, dollars.
But not all that glitters is gold.
How are we going to inculcate that to sink into the minds of our young people?
One, we need government to have more skilling centers so that the people can be skilled and the skilling should be relevant to the emerging issues that we have around, so that when they're finished skilling, they are quickly taken up into the system of what availability is there. Two, for the youth, I don't even know how to say this. Patience is not their virtue, but yet it is a virtue. It is important to be patient. Getting quick money is not always the answer. And east or west, home is best. Not all that you'll go out there. There are different situations out there. Before you go, use the right channels. One of the best ways, by the way, to do this, for those who are not children, for those who are youth, who are in working age, is go through the legalized recruitment agencies. And I know people are going to tell me that some of them are trafficking. That is okay. It is easier to handle them because we know who they are compared to the ones who we don't know. You understand? I can hold you accountable as UBC because I know you're UBC. But I cannot hold another TV station that we don't know exists where. Doesn't have an address, doesn't have a registered thing. It's easier for us to engage. And when I say us, I mean as Ugandans, exactly. Even the government, to engage and hold accountable UBC or the recruitment agency. UBC is not a recruitment, but that recruitment agency, it's easier to hold them accountable and to bring them to book. And we have somebody where we have a place where to start. When you go without the legal system, it is hard. It is very hard.
Okay.
And most of the most complicated cases we have seen around are those who have not gone through the regulated agencies.
We have seen parents a gap of parents not playing their roles right.
Parenting, yes.
Then some bit of the government where the implementation of the policing also not being perfect.
And financing
exactly
of the laws.
Civil society. You so much do your things in an elitist manner that at the end of the day, people don't get the information they're supposed to get from you. You tend to have the information, but because of the elitism in you, it doesn't trickle down to the grassroots man and woman who would really need it. How are we going to solve that?
The quickest way to solve it is give us financing. We'll take the information down.
Really?
Yes, because you see, one of the reasons why we are also limited in being able to sensitize and do all that is the financing. We have seen a decrease right now as we talk. We have seen a decrease, and I don't want to join the conversation of Ukraine war and all that, but we have actually seen a decrease of funding towards activities that go right to the grassroots, and we have had to many of our organizations have had to have a lot of cutbacks on the activities that they do. But two, we also believe that as civil society, we are coming, and government has told us this, we are coming to only supplement what government is doing, right? So if we're supplementing what government is doing, our goal should then be to ensure that government is doing what they should be doing. And so what we are embracing more and more is working alongside government and pushing government. I'll tell you, the technocrats actually want to do something. They are actually doing something. They are limited with financing, they're limited with all that, and that's why we come out to say, please government, please parliament, allocate more resources to the issues that are pertaining and need to be addressed widely. We have talked about them: poverty, skilling, employment, you know. And when we talk about employment, let's not talk about employment and 300,000. Our economy can you get even a house of 300,000? It is not possible. So when we talk of employment, we also talk about good pay, because those should be then the pull factor. Then the push factors will be dealing with the push factors. The pull factors are beyond us; they're beyond the country of Uganda. And now that is why we should hold Minister of Foreign Affairs. That's why we should hold the president and ask the president to then go and engage on our behalf.
Tell us about this day, the 30th of July.
Probably before I tell you about the day, I can also mention to you that even at regional level, at civil society, we are looking for the forums whereby we know that some of the engagements we're having, we cannot, this issue is cross-border, we cannot handle it alone. And what we have seen is that we need to partner with other member states.
Okay.
And we are taking advantage of the East Africa community. As UCRNN, we have the Eastern Africa, which engages with the African Union. We're also engaging with the IGAD, and I think our government has done very good there, because they have engaged on migration protocols. Because Uganda going to negotiate alone, they'll push us down. But if we are a collection of states going to say, if you want our citizens to come,
this is our voice.
This is the condition. That because if you say Uganda, this, they'll jump Uganda and go to Somalia. They will jump Uganda and go to Kenya. But since it is clear that all the member states of IGAD have said, if you want our employers, our citizens, this is the price. This is the condition. It gives us a stronger bid. And I congratulate the government for pushing that immigration policy protocol to come into place. So those are some of the key things now as civil society we are happy to be a part of and to push to happen at the East Africa level, at the EU level, and then also with the other RECs like IGAD.
Okay. Tell us about the day, the 30th of July, the World Day Against Trafficking in Humans.
This year, the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons will be on Saturday the 30th of July, and we'll be joining the whole world as we commemorate. Why we are commemorating is because we are not celebrating the crime exists. We are marking that we are celebrating the people who have gone through it and have succeeded. You know, the victims who are now back into their communities and are fitting. And we are also trying to come together to create more awareness about this crime. And the 30th of July will be commemorated at Entebbe International Airport. Okay. Why Entebbe International Airport? It is the entry and the exit of the country. But also, it makes a statement for us because we're working together with the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, and they're running a campaign. They're going to start a campaign on ensuring and making sure that Entebbe Airport is a traffic-free zone. In other words, they're not going to entertain anyone trying to use the airport as a place to take people to be victims. And for us, I think we need to congratulate the government. We need to congratulate UCAA for accepting to do that. And the other reason is, I think you've been seeing on Facebook and all these other channels, the immigration at the airport has refused me to go. Who do they think they are? I'm allowed to migrate. I'm allowed. But if they have seen red stars and you're going, you don't have a job offer. No, we're not allowing you to migrate. It is their role to ensure that you migrate safely. So we want them to be able to create awareness and know that the airport is doing what they're doing to ensure that you are not trafficked.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wamara, the Executive Director of the Uganda Children's Rights NGO Network. What do you do generally as we wind up?
We are a child rights network, as you've said, and we have over 150 member organizations that are a part of us from all over the country. We come together to have a collective advocacy voices, and we're able to share to advocate for the rights of the children in our country. And we also do work through our member organizations. We are not a service delivery, but we do work through our member organizations across the country. They bring the information, and we take the information to the national level. We are implementing currently two projects. One is on access to justice for children, and this is supported by Freedom House and USAID, and through this we are able to have promote children's rights to access to justice, especially around the area of commercial sexual exploitation. Okay. And from there we're able to identify what key forms of exploitation, which are also some cases trafficking, are able to do. The second is still on safeguarding, on what are the systems we're having in place. You've seen all these cases of children escaping from school and going to Entebbe town, and the beating of the children, the kicking of the children. What are the safeguarding directions in schools? The children are dying and committing suicide, they're jumping from the walls. What are the safeguarding procedures we're having in places? And those are the two projects we're doing, and the second project is in support from Eric's Foundation.
Okay. We thank you so much for the information we have shared.
Thank you. Thank you for
all the time. Me. Wish you the best in as far as commemoration for the 30th July is concerned.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. For you watching, that is all we had for you this evening. We have shared a lot. So, do you have a maid in your house? How did you get that girl? Have you sent anyone outside the country to work? Do you have any child working for you? You are trafficking someone. That is according to the information we have gathered here
possibly
this evening.